Hello students, in this class we'll see what is multidimensional array. You can only understand multidimensional array if you have understood single dimension array that we normally started, that was single dimension array. And yes, of course, the use of for loop is very important, and in multidimensional array you need to know properly or the proper use of nested loop. Nested loop is used in multidimensional array. A multi-dimensional array may be of 2 dimension, of 3 dimension, of 4 dimension, or of any dimension. There is no logical limit in the dimension of the array in Java. So what is this dimension? So let me try to make this clear with a simple example. So what is multi-dimensional array? In order to theoretically understand this first, we need to see one example, one instance where multi-dimensional array are used. Before we start multi-dimensional array, let us have a look over the single dimension array. In our previous class, we saw that int a like this equals new int 10 is one of the statement which does what, which creates array like this. I'm just making an illusion of array. I'm doing a small work. So this normally A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 till A9 is created when we do like this. 10 means 10 pockets starting from 0 till 9, total 10. So this is how we create things here. And we already saw that how, I mean, you can store the numbers, we can add them, and then you can print them in reverse also. If you run a reverse loop, then it will be printed in reverse. How can we find it? All we have seen it earlier. So what is the scenario where these single dimension loop can be used for? So very lot of examples are there. One relevant example maybe if we have to store total marks of 40 student in a class. Suppose we have to store total marks scored by 40 students in a class. So what we need to do? We need to do like this. Just replace it with 40 and do 40 0. So this will hold the marks of first student, this will hold the marks of second, this will hold the marks of third and all. So this is one simple example. You may think of a lot of other such examples. So this was example of a single dimension array. Okay, fine. Now what is multi-dimension? So let us first see how a multi-dimension array is created. We have two opening and closing brackets, set of two brackets. So this represents 2-dimension array. And yes, of course, if you create something like this, 4 or 5 or anything, 5, let us have 4 for simplicity. Then what we can do? We can write like this. Now how this, what's this, what is this? So think of a scenario. If we have to store marks of 3 terminals of 4 subjects, when suppose we have only to study 4 subjects, okay? Consider any subject, Hindi, English, Math and Science, okay? If we have 4 subjects to study and we have 3 tests, terminal 1, terminal 2 and terminal 3. So if we have to store marks of a single student in this way, then how can we store? Then this is how we can store. Now what is the arrangement of it? So let us see the arrangement of it. So this A34 is like this. 0, 1, 2. total 1 2 3 rows. This first value represents the number of row, and this second value represent the 4 represent the number of columns. So column number 1, column number 2, column number 3, and column number 4. Don't get confused with 0 is considered as 1. Okay, this happens. Okay, so this is the arrangement of array. Earlier we saw the single dimensions arrangement. Now we are watching the two dimensions arrangement. Okay, like this. So if you want to store, consider this as terminal 1, consider this as terminal 2, and consider this as term 3. And here you can have like this: Hindi, English, math, and science, suppose. Okay, so this is the logical arrangement of this same thing. Now if you want to, this is for one student. Of a one student, if you want to store of marks in this way, then you can do this. Then how can we store marks in this way of 40 student? This I'm storing. If you want to store marks scored by student in terminal 1 in Hindi, suppose here is scored this marks in Hindi, and this marks in English, and this marks in, and like this. In terminal 2 he scored something like this. And in the third terminal he scored something like this. Okay, so this is a single student. Although we are learning the double dimension array, but if anybody, if you want to ask, sir, if we want to store marks of 40 student in 3 terminals of 4 subject, then what? Then here comes the requirement of 3 dimension array. Okay, that will become even more complicated. So you can have any number of dimensions. So you need to understand this one by one. So first you clear the single dimension array concept and catch it, and then you go for the second, and then you can easily go for the third and fourth also. So this is how it works. Now this is the logical arrangement. Now how to actually do that? Do this. So this is achieved with the help of nested for loop. Nested for loop. 2 dimension array if you are using, then you need 2 loops. Nested, one loop and another loop is nested. If you are using 3 dimension, we need 3 nested loops. Okay, one, and under that one more, and under that one more. 3 loops are level will be 3, and 4 then 4. So practically mostly only 2 dimension, 1 dimension, and in rare case 3 dimensions are used, and 4 and 5 dimension are rare of the rarest. Okay. So now if you have understood this logical concept, then you can go for the text. So let us try to read and let us see what happens. Multi-dimensional array, actually array of arrays. Yes, array of arrays. These you might expect to look at like regular multi-dimensional. However, you will see a couple of subtitle. Look at the example. This allocates a 4 by 5 array assigned to it too. It makes a matrix is implemented as array of array. Okay, so here is one example, and you can see the nested loop. So let us now see the loop. Nothing more is written in the text. So as I say always, that these things are more understood practically than theoretically. So let us make a program which will show us a 2-dimensional array. Or let us try to implement the same scenario which we just took, the storing marks of subjects and all. Array 2D, we can give any name you can give. This is a valid name. Yeah, 2D array is not valid name. 2 is the number first. Digit cannot be the initial word, initial letter of any variable or class name. So array 2D. So let us define a variable terminal marks 3 terminals, and subject will be 4 subjects, or you may increase or decrease as per your requirement. Not like this, actually like this. INT equals new int 34. Like this we can do. Okay. Now it will take some time, but why I do type every line? Because this video is not only for a smart student, this is for all kind of students. So you should see everything happening in front of you. Maybe my videos are boring, but I can't help it. I'm not making videos for only smart students. So 3 students, and then loop begins for int I, or it's good to make what loop variables, no, like this. I equals 0. Then again, you do not need to write int here. If you write int in the for loop, no, then it becomes a local variable to that block. Afterwards, there is no value of I, or the value of I ends. Its existence ends. And if you write int here, then it will exist in this whole block of the main function. So less than 3 means it will go less than 3. It means it will go from 0, 1, and 2. Okay, fine. Now what we have to do? Now this is the block of first marks of term what? I plus 1, 0 plus 1. I mean, it will say marks of term 1 first. Huh? Okay. For j equals 0, j is less than. This is how double dimension arrays are used. And that's why I said that you need to understand the nested for loop properly. If you haven't understood, this will become very complicated for you. And if you have understood, it will be nothing for you. So this is how the thing works. Everything is linked with a chain. If one point is okay, then only you can understand the next point. Otherwise, you will be wandering around and will find ultimately that this programming is not for you. But this is not true. Although since we have to input the number from the user side, so we need to do something like this. Import. And then let us create an object. Scanner in equals new scanner system.in, because we have to input from the user side. Now how to input? Now this is the important point, how to input actually in that those arrays. So let us write the way in the proper way. What's the name of array variable? This is tm. Now I, yes, and then j, yes, and then equals, and then in dot next int. Now for most of you it will be easy, and for most of you it will be tough. For those students who are practicing, these things will be very easy, and for those who are not practicing, this will be, what is this? We have never seen such kind of thing. Yes, okay. So for to simplify it, let us do something like this. Subject what? J plus 1, like this. Subject 1, subject 2, subject 3, subject, ऐसे ये आएगा वहां पर. Okay, okay, okay. Now let us do one thing. Let us output it also. It will input this much only. Yes, yes, this much is enough. Let us first see this working, huh? And then we'll do output also. Array 2D dot Java. No problem. Now run it. See, always start from the first statement. This is the first statement, variables created. Let us do one thing. Have a look over this. And so let us do changes in the RAM as well. Think of this as the variable TM, हाँ? उसी का 0 1 2 है और उसी का 0 1 2 3 4 है. इसको फिलहाल blank छोड़ देते हैं हम लोग. And we'll see how, as and when we will enter the number, how it will go to the RAM. Okay. So this statement executed first. With this kind of arrangement created in the RAM. With this invariable created. Now enter marks in 3 terms of 4 subjects. Marks in 3 terms of 4 subjects. Okay. Now to ij created. Now with the I entered the loop, the value of I. Let us make the value of I and j as well, huh? So that we can see how the double dimension works. This may be a little complicated, but yes, you will have to understand. There's no other way. I and j. What is the value of I in the beginning? It's 0. Okay. With I as 0, it entered and it printed this particular line. Enter marks of term I plus 1. Enter marks of term I plus 1 is not working this way. Isko like this you need to write. I plus 1 is treated as a string now. This we have already seen in output video regarding output. Save it, compile it back, close this program in the between. Now run it. Now it's okay. Marks of terminal 1. Okay, it entered here. Now j value is 0. I value is also 0. J value is 0 now. Fine. Now what? Enter marks of subject j plus 1. J's value is 0. So 1 plus 1. Subject 1. Enter marks subject 1. I entered like 89. So where it is entering? I and j. Where i's value is also 0. J's value is also 0. So which is ij? Look, this is I, huh? This is I and this is j. This represents j and this represents I. Okay, I. ये I को represent कर रहा है. So I is 0 and j is 0. What value I entered? I entered 89. So 89 went there. Okay. Now what happened? With this, the j value changed and it became 1. It's looping, no? It will go till 3. Less than 4 till 3. Less than 4 till 3 it will go. Now again, marks of subject j plus 1. J's value is now 1. Now so 1 plus 1 that became 2. Mark subject 2 end number like 86. Now i's value is 0 but j's value is 1. So this is the place where it will go. What's the value? 86. Fine. Now meanwhile this is happening, j's value changed and it became 2. Loop is running now. Loop is working. So loop work like this. So now the next number is asking for subject 3. 2 plus 1, that is 3. whatever number will input, like 92, it will go to I0 J2. Here it will go 92 if we press 92. Now with this, J's value has reached 3, and now it's asking for the marks for fourth subject. Put any number like 83. Now what? It went 83 here. Okay. Now what? This loop ended because it has completed its condition and has ended. Now it encountered it. When it encountered this, then the value of I changed and has become 1. Okay. Now this is what happens with the nested for loop. That is discussed in the for loop video. We can watch it. Now this line will be executed. Enter marks of term 2 this time, because now the value of I is 1. So 1 plus 1, 2, term 2. Because the numbering is starting from 0. No? That is making a little confusion, but no need to confuse. Be clear. Now what happens when it enters the loop again? This happens. This loop restarts. Yes. It doesn't mean that J has reached the value 3. So no. This will again start with 0. Yes. This is what happens with the nested loop. Now what? J is 0, but I is 1. Now it entered here, enter marks of subject 1. Because of this, because it is restarting, re-executing, everything is reset. So J is 0. So 0 plus 1, 1. So the enter marks of subject 1. Now whatever will enter, like 75 entered. What has happened? The 75 will go where? The value of I is 1, value of J is 0. So this is I is 1 and J is 0. So 75 will go here. Now the same way this loop will continue. J will become 1, and whatever value will input, like 73, this will enter here. And then the loop will change again, and the subject of 3, like 78. Then it went here 78. Then the value of J also changed. This is the last time it's working. Now we are entering like 79. So it again went to 79 here. And after this, the J ends, J loop again ends, and it encounters this curly brace, and it goes back to I condition. And this time I has become 2. And this is the last round it has to work, because it has to work till I is less than 3, and yes, 2 is less than 3, after which it will become, I will become 3, and which will not be less than 3, so it will exit the loop. So again, this will happen since the value of I is 2, so term 3 it will tell, and J loop will again start. In this video, in this class, what we are learning double dimension array, as well as the way the nested loop works. This video will help you to understand. So watch it many number of times, as long as you do not understand, and just try to get it. So what will happen? This J loop will again start. Yes. So this time, whatever will input, like 63 will input. So this time the value of I is 2. So enter 63 here. This will go to this 63 here. Again, J loop will become 1. Enter in number like 69. Here you enter 69. That will go to the RAM, of course. Now it changed and become 2. It's the marks of subject 3 then. Enter like 61. It went here 61. And meanwhile it changed and become 3 also. And this is the last time. Enter any number like 66. So it entered here 66. And as you have seen that after this, it checked I's value has become 3. So it will exit this loop. It will not enter the loop. And then nothing is there. So it just came out simply. And with this arrangement in RAM, this kind of arrangement is there in RAM. Yes. So now let us see how to output this also. If you have understood this, you can see the way to output. Output is also same. Just copy this or type it, whatever way you find easy. So now we have what? We have this kind of arrangement in RAM. Although we have to re-execute the program to see the things working. And for outputting also, Displaying marks of first term, term 1, okay? These things are not needed. System.out.print, not println. Yes, print I'm writing, so that it will be written in one line. Value of what? Value of tm, I, and j, after which a /t tab mark will be there. Okay, only this much. Now this will also let you learn something, writing in this way, how these things works. So save it, go for its compilation, no problem. Run this program. Of course, we'll have to input the numbers again. So 89, 86, I'm watching from Excel and I'm typing. I'm trying to enter the same thing that we have entered earlier. Intentionally, I'm writing this change. So see the output. Look. 89, 86, 92, 93. Why this is appearing like this? Because we have used print instead of println. If you would have used println, see what happens. This is the place where you can see print. Print also is used somewhere. Okay. So see the arrangement like this, and like this. So dear students, this is how the double dimension array is used. And with the double dimension array, what we can do any kind of operations like adding rows, adding columns, and finding average of one row, every row like this, the average of term 1, term 2, term 2, or average of Hindi, English, math, like this we can do it. So that we will see in our next class. So meanwhile, you just practice it properly, nicely, so that you could understand the next video. Thank you, dear students.